Somerset, England said goodbye to Anthony Head this week, and the public funeral held in the county he called home for decades, the place where he raised his daughters, where he built his quietest and most complete life, was everything the man deserved. Anthony Stewart Head passed away peacefully on June 5, 2026, at the age of 72, at his home surrounded by his family. The cause of death was complications from pneumonia. His daughters Emily and Daisy announced his death, saying, "It is with heavy hearts that we announce the death of our extraordinary father. It has been, and forever will be, an honor and a privilege to be his daughters, and to have witnessed firsthand the impact both he and his work have had on so many." Two daughters, standing before the world, with the specific grace of people who grew up watching their father give himself completely to every role he ever played, and who now have the full measure of what that gift meant to millions of strangers. The public service was held in Somerset, not in London where he was born, not in Los Angeles where so much of his most famous work was made, but in the English countryside where Anthony Head chose to live, where he raised Emily and Daisy, where he grew vegetables and played guitar and was simply, for most of the year, a man in a village who happened to have one of the most recognizable faces in British television. The room was full in the specific way that only genuine love produces, not industry obligation, not networking dressed as mourning, genuine love from the people who worked beside him and found themselves better for it. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy Summers to his Rupert Giles for 7 seasons, led the tributes with the most devastating single sentence of the entire memorial. "Tell Giles I figured it out and I'm okay." She added, "Well, I don't have it figured out and I'm not okay." She quoted the show. At the funeral, she reached into the fiction they built together and pulled out the line that said everything about what Anthony Head meant to her, as a co-star, as a mentor, as the steady presence who anchored 7 years of her professional life. "Tell Giles I figured it out and I'm okay." In the show, that line is a message sent through death from a slayer to her watcher, and Sarah Michelle Gellar used it at his real funeral as her own message, back across the same boundary, to say, "I haven't figured it out, and I am not okay." The room felt that completely. Brett Goldstein, Roy Kent in Ted Lasso, the colleague who knew Anthony Head's most recent major chapter, described him as a brilliant actor who played complex characters. Rupert Mannion, the villain of Ted Lasso, the character Anthony Head apparently loved playing precisely because he was never redeemed. In a show that found grace and humanity in almost every character it touched, Rupert Mannion remained the unreconstructed antagonist, and Anthony Head played him with a complexity that made him fascinating rather than cartoonish. A man who was genuinely awful and somehow still interesting, still human, still worth watching. Jeremy Swift, who played Leslie Higgins, shared on Instagram, "Goodbye, Tony, we adored you. Rest in peace, my friend. We adored you." From inside the world he had most recently inhabited, from the people who knew him on the Ted Lasso set, the green-painted pitch, the locker room, the press box, who experienced the version of Anthony Head that existed in his final professional chapter. James Marsters stood before the cameras and said, "There's a hole in the world. Anthony Head has passed on from us. He was an unflaggingly kind and steady presence on the set of Buffy and the best actor in the cast. I feel lucky to have known and learned from him." The best actor in the cast, from a cast that included Sarah Michelle Gellar, who won awards for that role, who built her entire career on that role, and the man who stood beside her for 7 seasons is saying Anthony Head was the best actor in the room. That is not a throwaway compliment. That is testimony from someone who was there, who watched him work, who learned from watching him. Emma Caulfield shared a photograph taken on the London Underground in 2011. She wrote, "We had lunch, hit up a record store, had dinner and drinks and laughed until our sides hurt. It was a perfect day." There were many of these moments with this amazing human who I was lucky enough to call my friend for 27 years. He was kind and wise and a guide in troubled times. A record store, lunch, dinner and drinks, laughing until their sides hurt. 27 years of friendship sustained from a television set in California across 3 decades, described in the most specific, most ordinary, most completely human language available. Not the credits, not the awards. The London Underground, the record store, the perfect day. But wait, there is a dimension to this funeral that makes the grief inside that Somerset room even heavier than it would otherwise be. Anthony Head's death comes just 6 months after the family suffered another devastating blow. The death of his longtime partner, Sarah Fisher, who passed away at 61 in late 2025. The announcement came in December 2025, described by Emily and Daisy as something that came with very little warning and was immensely shocking to them all. 6 months. Emily and Daisy Head lost their mother in December 2025 and their father in June 2026. 6 months between 2 losses, 2 people who defined the home they grew up in gone in the same winter and spring. The double grief facing Emily and Daisy has drawn an enormous wave of sympathy from fans and the wider entertainment world. The funeral carried that weight, not just the loss of Anthony Head, but the specific, impossible context of a family that had already been broken once and was being broken again before they had finished reassembling from the first time. Anthony Head was born on February 20, 1954, in Camden Town, London, into an artistic family. His father was a documentary filmmaker, his mother an actress. His older brother Murray Head a singer and actor. He trained at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art and built an early career in musical theatre, including a turn as Frankenfurter in a West End revival of the Rocky Horror Show. He rose to fame in the UK through a long-running series of Nescafe Gold blend coffee commercials in the late 1980s, whose romantic storyline made him a household face. He then went on to play Rupert Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1997 to 2003, the Prime Minister in Little Britain from 2003 to 2006, Other Pendragon in Merlin from 2008 to 2012, and Rupert Mannion in Ted Lasso from 2020 to 2023. A coffee commercial that made him famous, a vampire show that made him immortal, a villain on a beloved Apple TV comedy that introduced him to an entirely new generation, and a Somerset life between all of it, that the people who knew him there are now grieving in the specific way that neighbors and communities grieve, quietly, locally, without cameras. Emily and Daisy said it will forever be an honor to have been his daughters and witness the impact he had on so many. Sarah Michelle Gellar said she doesn't have it figured out and she's not okay. Emma Caulfield said he was a guide in troubled times. James Marsters said there is a hole in the world. And somewhere in Somerset, a house is quiet that used to have Anthony Head in it, a garden that he tended, a guitar that he played, a kitchen where a family rebuilt themselves after December and is now rebuilding again after June. Anthony Stewart Head, February 20, 1954, June 5, 2026, aged 72. Rest in peace, Tony. Thank you for watching.